Cigarito weren't fur off, I reckon. No, sir, not even the wind had managed to sweep away his tracks on that stony road a-leadin' south. Only a day had passed since he'd left them two women at the edge of town, and that mescalero weren't one to wander aimless like. He always moved with a purpose, same as if the very earth itself was a whisper in the way to him. So the Mexicans of Santa Fe, they cottoned on to one thing mighty quick. If they aimed to catch him, they couldn't never outrun him. No, they had to make him turn his own self around. Don Esteban, he cooked up a simple but right smart stratagem to light a great big fire with smoke so thick and black it'd fetch a body from a mile off, not far from the road to Veracruz. A callin' fire, the very kind the Apaches used when a comrade was hurt bad or when some awful danger was a-bearing down. To do the job right, they bought a sack of dried mesquite leaves and a lump of black resin off the settled Indians in the market. That stuff smoked thick and black as the sky in a July thunderstorm. Barrios, puffing himself up big as a toad in the first rains, took it on himself to light the pyre. "If that Injun don't come a-running for this here smoke," says he, "I'll eat my hat and ask for seconds." It was smoke Cigarito would know in a heartbeat. Don Esteban, who'd seed smoke signals aplenty from the tribes along the Rio Grande in his time, he explained how it had to be done. The smoke had to talk. Barrios rolled his eyes. He'd lit 40 fires if they'd let him, but he minded his orders. Don Esteban stood behind the pyre and lifted his poncho up and down, slow and steady, so the column of smoke rose in clear, sharp bursts. The men around him just stared, plumb dumbfounded. To a Mexican eye, it looked like plain old soot going up any which way. But to an Apache, it was plain as day, a message. Near half a league away, Cigarito had just rid into a narrow valley when he caught the smell of that smoke. Then he seen the signal. He jerked the reins so hard his horse let out a neigh that'd wake the dead. He set there a-staring at the rhythm of it, slow, mighty slow, like a feller a-deciphering some old language that only his blood remembered. 2 short columns, a pause, a third one, longer, then another pause. The message was plain as paint. Get back here. Somebody's life is hanging in the balance. Cigarito swore under his breath. Who in tarnation could be in danger? Them German women? Some other Mexican? Or one of his own mescalero kin? He tightened his grip on the reins and swung his horse clean around toward Santa Fe. He couldn't ignore such a signal. No Apache in the whole tribe would. And if it was a trap, well, he knowed exactly how to handle himself. It weren't the first time, nor would it be the last. Besides, that smoke was timed so perfect it couldn't be faked by nobody who didn't know the old ways. When he come a-riding up, Don Esteban stepped out to meet him with his hands raised peaceful-like, and 2 men behind him toting gifts. Cigarito never even glanced at the presents. He just looked hard at the poncho and the fire, then at them 2 German women a-waiting there. "Who's in danger?" he hollered, still setting his horse. "Everybody," says Don Esteban, "and only you can stop it. We want to make peace with you." Cigarito looked a long time toward Santa Fe. His eyes narrowed again the cold November light. The air already smelled of winter, and yonder the mountains was the color of lead. He knowed a hard winter was comin', one of them mean ones where every scrap of meat and every blanket meant the difference betwixt livin' and dying. The white man's gifts, humiliating as they sometimes was, would be mighty welcome for his tribe, especially for the old folks, the mothers with young'uns, and them that stayed behind when the warriors rode off. But Cigarito weren't nobody's fool. The white man's help always come with a price. even when it weren't wrote down. And he knowed something else, heavier than any winter. He couldn't decide all by his lonesome. In a mescalero camp, a warrior's word carried the weight of his own blood. And the word of a chief? That couldn't be broke without the spirits turning their backs on the whole clan. The business of peace was like a double-edged spear. Once you picked it up, you had to carry it to the end. No Injun ever made a promise light-like, 'cause a promise was a road with no turning back. Cigarito wiped his palm across his forehead, feeling the road dust mixed with sweat. He turned toward Don Esteban, then toward them two German women. "I can't decide," says he, slow and low. "Nor would Pasago decide alone, nor Marcos, nor Barranquito. We don't say peace without the counsel of the elders and them that's lost kin in the wars." Behind him the signal smoke thinned out, like the fire itself was listening. "If you won't talk of peace," he went on, "you got to follow your own rules. And ours." Don Esteban bowed his head. He understood plain enough. It weren't Cigarito that needed convincing, but all the Apache tribes. "Then what must be done?" he asked. Cigarito looked once more toward Santa Fe, then toward the road leading to Sierra Blanca. "We got to go to the chiefs together. But don't bring them two women. They promised never to come back there. If anybody sees 'em again, there can't be no understanding with the white man. And he mustn't come neither." Here Cigarito pointed with an open palm straight at Barrios. "Nobody negotiates with cowards or traitors." Then he added, in that soft voice that scared the Mexicans worse than any yell, "Don't promise nothin', not yet, 'cause the Apache don't forgive them that lies."